Hey, ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome.
this is us again. Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
What do you mean, welcome?
Well, it means welcome, means hello, welcome in, welcome aboard the
Aw,
ship.
racist.
Well, I'm not
Pretending
sure how
like I
much.
don't understand it. So,
You
what are you
look,
drinking there, Tommy? What are you drinking?
you look like you wouldn't understand.
Again, is that racist or what?
That's racist.
Okay.
I'm drinking. I don't even know how to say that. It's Welsh. Tiny Rebel, but I don't know what it's called. It's CWTCH. Welsh Red Ale. Ooh.
Right, okay. Anyway. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, this time. I thought we'd switch it up. I thought we'd talk a bit, and then we would
Play the
have
terrible musical intro.
let's let the fans decide whether that's
Fans.
decide whether that's bad. Where are our Ecuadorian fans? That's what I want to know.
I imagine in Ecuador.
Well, yeah, okay.
See, this is the delay because we're FaceTiming each other right now whilst unbeknownst to our listeners. So I can see everything he's doing, and he's just casually vaping, which is really irritating.
Or would you rather I was smoking?
I'd rather that you just weren't doing anything other than talking.
Well, okay. So when I'm silent, maybe you should fill the void. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, so Dimitriy, whilst you're sucking on that thing, looking sumptuous, what are we going to talk about today?
Looking sumptuous, interesting. I thought we would I thought we would walk through what's actually happening in the world at the moment.
Okay, shoot.
Well, talking of vaping, they're thinking about introducing vaping to buses.
Sure.
Now, I don't know about any other vapor out there, but I already vape in buses, so this isn't news to me.
Yeah, but you could look menacing to the casual observer.
But I don't understand why this is such a huge issue. Are people clamoring to vape in buses? Like, it's a bit like I think we're solving an issue that isn't an issue yet. Do you know?
I guess. I do know. I know. I haven't. I mean, I don't know that many people who vape, but of the ones that I do, I haven't sort of chatted to them and they say, "Oh, do you know what's really pissing me off at the moment? Can't vape on buses, mate."
I mean, look, it's for me, it's a bit like artificial intelligence in cars and having self-driving cars.
Right.
I what
No
problem is
audio.
that solving?
Sure.
Well,
None.
okay, can you answer me?
I don't think it's solving any problem.
Can you also get your mic a bit louder, please? Because I don't think our listeners are hearing anything.
I'm not sure how I can achieve that for you.
Well, that's a bit better, I suppose.
Okay. Sure. Anyway, stay on point, shall we? You nearly said a very bad word then.
Anyway, so vaping on buses, vaping in general. Are you? Let's go all the way back. What started vaping? So, are you quite happy with the smoking ban?
On the whole, yeah.
Because you're a smoker, right?
Are you? Well, I socially partake in a cigarette occasionally.
So you're a smoker. Okay, so
Not anymore.
okay, so you do smoke though.
Not anymore.
Okay, so do you ever think, oh, you know what, this needs a smoking atmosphere?
I only ever really get like that if I'm drinking
Okay.
down the pub or something.
Down the pub or
I'm too
something.
old for nightclubs now.
Too old for nightclubs. All right, Grandpa. Jesus. We're not
right.
that old. We're 31.
Well, we get told that we're old. I get told that I'm old by the two youngins at work, 21 and 19.
Well, we'll get on to them. We'll get on to them.
And they're like, "Oh, you're ancient." Am I?
You are ancient. Well,
they thought I was 40 because I'm bald.
Well, you do look ancient. You do look ancient. By the way, for those people that we should be recording these video because, Jesus, you look about 50.
That's not very nice, is
it? Anyway, so smoking. I was happy when they banned it. What I wasn't happy about is how bad clubs and pubs smelled afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, there's the age-old joke, isn't it? Of it covered the smell of the toilets.
Yeah, one thing that I probably should say is that I'm pretty sure our listeners would not enjoy you swigging and swallowing liquids and solids.
Give a fuck.
Wow. Okay, fine. So, yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised, and to this day, I don't think it's that good. I think clubs smell. I think pubs smell.
Yes, they do.
I don't think they got rid of that problem yet. It's that musty smell of alcohol as well. Old alcohol.
Yeah, spilt alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like on rugs.
It's not great. And yeah.
Anyway, so smoking and what about vaping? Do you think people should be able to vape indoors? Because it doesn't smell as much. It doesn't do as much bad for you, I don't think, so far. I think every study said that it's not as bad for you as smoking is. It's bad for you in different ways, but not as bad as smoking.
I mean, it's 6 of one and half dozen of the other, I think. If it's still bad for you, if it's still, secondhand, if it's still bad for your health, then people shouldn't have to inhale it if they don't want to.
Right, but then...
I mean, you want a solution, get a better air freshener.
Okay.
Or get the clubs to fucking clean.
Well, you're asking a bit too much there. But okay.
To hire a cleaner.
But in general, in public spaces, so say you're in a bar.
Yep.
Do you mind if people vape in a bar?
I don't personally. But, I don't speak for the people. I don't speak for the people who you always get the people that they're smoking 15 miles away from me and I'm sure a carcinogen just went on me.
Not sure that's how it works, but okay.
I know that's not how it works. It's called being exaggerative, you fucking nonce.
Why are you being homophobic now?
It's not homophobic, is it?
Oh, it kind of is. Anyways.
Nonce?
Well, yeah. Is it not?
No.
Okay, fine. So it's not an issue for you?
Not for me.
Vaping on a bus is not an issue?
I don't go on buses.
Ooh, look at you. I'm a rich man.
Just don't go on buses. I either walk or drive.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, so what else? What else is in the news? Why don't you present one?
Sure.
Okay, so you don't have one. Mosque denies military jihad support. Now, did you see this one? This was in Manchester, in a Didsbury mosque.
I didn't see that, no. Enlighten me.
So, Didsbury, for those of you who don't know Manchester very well, is actually quite a well-to-do area.
Dimitriy lives in Manchester.
Yeah. So I now live in Manchester, which is why we're not doing this together, because I don't live in our end of nowhere.
Well...
but this imam called Mustafa Graf in this mosque in 2016
cool name, bro.
gave a sermon in support of fighters in Syria. But this is a bit of a he said she said moment, but fine. If that's what he said, that's what he said. And this was 6 months before Salman Abedi killed 22 people after Ariana Grande concert in Manchester Arena, which was a horrible
incident.
Yeah, horrible event. A lot of kids, a lot of innocent people. Well, all innocent people have died there, and a lot of people, were injured or heavily injured, which is bad. So obviously, this is a very a very sore issue for the Mancunians.
Right.
I mean, I kind of, let's say he did say this. Let's say he said, because I think what he said, okay, so he's heard saying, we ask Allah to grant them mujahideen, our brothers and sisters right now in Aleppo and Syria and Iraq, to grant them victory. Mujahideen is the freedom fighter, I think.
Yeah.
And then he says, lots of brothers stayed behind, unfortunately. I don't see you fucking clamoring to be there. They love Islam and Muslims, but they do nothing for the support of their brothers and sisters. Again, I don't really see him packing his bags.
No.
He also remarks, jihad for the sake of Allah is the source of pride and dignity for this nation. I'm assuming he means Nation of Islam, because I'm pretty sure there aren't that many Brits going out and praising Allah and committing jihad. And at one point, he was heard saying the whole world, including Europe, America, that's not the whole world, what is the so-called civilized world, is watching what is happening in Aleppo and Syria. Yes. They know that Iran, Russia, and the militias are killing humans in Syria, and they do nothing. I'm not sure that's true. I'm pretty sure America killed a lot of people anyway. Well, in fact, they helped the Russians and the Iranians and others, the militias, to kill Muslims over there. Let's not forget that Syria is also home to the largest population of Armenians outside of Armenia, who are mostly Orthodox Christians. Mm-hmm. So he's being a bit misleading there.
A little bit, yeah. He's only quoting what he believes in rather than actual facts.
I mean, look, obviously what happened with the Salman Abedi, the guy that killed people in Manchester Arena, I think that motherfucker should rot in jail, but obviously he killed himself, so he can't even do that. Yeah. He's an absolute dick for doing what he did. And any religion that tells you to kill innocent people is stupid, in my idea. It's absolutely retarded. Retarded in the sense of, yes, I do mean psychologically retarded. I don't think it reached a point where it can be considered intelligent. If you're telling people to kill other people, you're a dick. What do you think, Tom?
If you're telling other people to kill innocent people, you're a cunt. That's done. Wow. I mean, what else can you say? People... I mean, I don't even understand. Why kill innocent bystanders? Why kill people? Innocent people who have absolutely nothing to do with you. You don't know any of their religious beliefs. You don't know any of theirs. You've never even met them. They're at a concert. They're doing what they want to do, enjoying their life. Or this is just the Manchester one, for example. It's the same with Paris. People were at concerts and eating out at restaurants and stuff. I mean, it's just life is how it is. Why are you punishing them? I don't get it.
See, the issue that I have with these kind of people is that all they do is they tell other people to go and kill themselves, but they do fuck all about it themselves.
Yeah.
It's like this dude from the supposed head of ISIS. From the reports, it seems that he's just in Qatar somewhere, or Kuwait, or some other shithole that he's in. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm saying that those countries are shitholes, but he's stuck in a shithole probably somewhere. Mm-hmm. And he's just telling everyone, oh yeah, brothers and sisters, you have to go and kill yourselves because then you get rewarded in heaven. Mate, if it was that good, you should be front line.
Yeah.
It's the same as these. Well, but you see, this isn't just... before people start saying that we're anti-Islam and anti-Muslim, this is exactly the same shit that Americans are doing themselves. All these generals saying, this is the greatest thing that we could ever do is go and kill those Muslims. And it's like, dude, if that is the best thing that you can do as an American, why aren't you there? Oh,
yeah.
I got flat feet. Well, give a fuck. Go and fight there. The one thing that I respect about the Russians is that there were let's assume that they weren't sent by Russia, but these were people that wanted to go and fight. These were, according to reports from Russia, ordinary people that went to Ukraine to fight for the Russian side of Ukraine. I respect that. If you're an ordinary guy and you disagree with it, you go and support the people that are fighting the war and that are suffering as a result. I just think telling people to go and kill it is no different to is it Charles Manson, the guy that didn't actually kill anyone, but he was head of a cult.
Yeah, and got people to kill for him and stuff.
Yeah, and then obviously they killed a famous actress as well.
Yes,
but it was I just think, look, there is absolutely no difference between what Charles Manson did and what these guys are doing by telling other kids, and these are kids for most of the time. Okay, I mean, some of them are adults as such, but they've got intelligence of an absolute child. But they go and kill themselves for these guys who are stuck in fucking luxury, sitting at their desk on Skype and telling people to go out and kill other people.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know, mate. I don't know. I mean, obviously you're a deep evangelical Christian. What do you think?
I'm not. Just for clarification there. I mean, let's not rehash a point here.
No, let's.
Well, all right. I mean, I'm just going to say exactly what I said about 15 seconds ago. You should never inflict your beliefs on other people. If you want something done, do it yourself. Unless you're physically incapable of doing a certain thing, but that thing shouldn't involve killing people. Unfortunately, people are just like that, aren't they? Some people are psychopaths and sociopaths, and they just want to kill and maim and manipulate people to do things for them because it's funny to them, and they have no remorse, they have no conscience.
I think it comes from desire for power and influence, though, doesn't it? I mean, it's the same fucking shit as that wicked witch of West Wing called Hilary Clinton. So there's an amazing 12-minute video of Hilary. I think it's titled Hilary Lying, and in it I don't know if you watched the debates. Did you watch the debates?
Some of them.
So in one of them, I think it's CNN that are doing the debate, because the way that it works in the States is that different news outlets do the debates, and obviously some have a left-leaning agenda, some have a right-leaning agenda. So, are you yawning?
No, I'm just breathing.
Right, and and Anderson.
This is great, listeners. This is gold.
Sure. And Anderson Cooper, who's an anchor for, I believe it's CNN. Anyway, it's a left-leaning news agency, and he absolutely destroyed Hillary Clinton.
In what respect?
Well, he asked her, so he said, okay, let's talk about gay marriage. I'm paraphrasing here. So he said, let's talk about gay marriage. You're against it, you're for it, you're against it, you're for it. Where do you stand? And she says, well, Anderson, I was always for homosexual marriage. I think people who love each other need to get married if they want to. And then it cuts to a clip of her about 10 years before that. Oh, and she said, I was always for it. I always supported homosexual marriage. So the key there...
Irish now, is she?
You what, sorry, mate?
Irish now, is she?
Sure. So the key there is that she said she always supported it. Now, obviously, people change their minds, right? People change minds and opinions as they grow older, as they get more educated, or the opposite way. And what she said about 10, 15 years ago is that she's absolutely believes that a marriage is between a man and a woman, and it's a sacred bond and all that shit. Bearing in mind that her husband was in the Oval Office getting head off Monica Lewinsky while she was saying that.
Oh, yes.
So she did well there. Sacred. Absolutely sacred. She forgave him. Of course she did, because she was nothing without him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but then he said, would you say anything to win an election? And she said, well, absolutely not, Cooper. I will always and I will unequivocally stand beside for the freedom of people. And obviously, she didn't. So
Sure.
I think politicians and religious clerics share very similar traits because they want power, they want influence, and they will do and say anything to get it. And
Yeah.
that's why both people prey on the weak. Both people prey on the uneducated because they don't know better.
Or the vulnerable.
Well,
They prey on.
how many educated PhD students do you know went and voted for anyone? And how many PhD students do you know are blowing themselves up in the name of any religion?
Personally, none. Well, I mean, it's a valid point, you know. But education isn't everything because the educated ones are the ones that are masterminding these things, and the politicians are clever people. Do you know what I mean? So they're good with their words, and they just want to manipulate situations to their own benefit. I'm just I'm wondering what room you've gone to now. By the way, smiling at me like that, but oh, okay, yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it. Um, you know, I think there's a lot of things that need to be raised. I'm just wondering, and you can get back to me with this in a minute, with American politics, because American politics is a bit of a boiling pot for me, a bit of a cauldron of the unknown. But do you, because so many Americans get so involved with the politics, like the people, do you like the way that the American social media outlets and news stations run the interviews and stuff,
Um,
like the debates and running mates and all these big discussions that they have?
I actually do. I do think that the issue is I don't think there's anything wrong with the format. I think there's something wrong with the candidates and the way that they formulate their answers, and everything is formulaic. Everything is a fucking bite-size slogan that they can believe in and that people can understand and that they can recite and that they can remember because people are idiotic and they have attention of a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And this has been exacerbated by social media. Look, I think the questions that they ask are pertinent and are important to know the answers to. I think the way that politics has turned and what it turned into, which is a popularity contest,
Yeah.
About a guy who people don't really know much about, but they sort of understand what he's saying. It's a bit like, I think part of the reason why Obama won wasn't because he was a great politician. It's because he could speak well, and he
Yeah.
was a black dude, and he was a cool black dude, and people voted for him.
Right.
Well, okay. Let's dissect his term in the office. What did he do? He came in, and then he said, "What I will do is, I will get rid of the, what's it called, Guantanamo Bay."
Yeah.
He said he was going to abolish Guantanamo Bay. Did he? Still there. Still there. So he failed at that. And
Yeah.
people will say, "Oh yeah, but you can't blame him. It's the political system. He had the House, the House of Representatives or the Senate or whatever it was. I don't really care. Was a Republican. Not for the first 4 years. He could have passed any law without any issues.
Right.
It's a bit like when the Conservatives had a landslide majority. They could have passed any law, right? It's the same kind of thing for our British listeners. So, okay, let's see what else he did. I'm going to provide universal healthcare to everyone.
Yeah.
He didn't quite do that. He gave it a good
Well,
go.
I mean, it's a different situation out there, isn't it? The country's bigger. The population is huge comparatively.
350 million. 350. 350 million for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, that's a lot of healthcare, and especially in a culture where you've got a lot of gun culture. Do you know what I mean? It's a difficult situation to bring in universal healthcare. You couldn't implement the NHS straight into it. You couldn't just copy.
No.
Go on.
I agree with you, but here is where he shouldn't fucking promise things that he doesn't know that he can do.
Yeah, but that's the politician in him, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But this is the issue. They will say shit. They will say anything to get into the office. This is a massive popularity contest, whether it's in the States.
Politics has always been a popularity contest. Well, I mean, you've only got to read about Cicero to know.
Oh.
You've only got to read about Cicero. I mean, this thousands of years ago in Rome, and he was a great orator and witty and sharp, and he won the mobs over, in Rome and got to consul when no one ever thought he would, because it was a popularity contest and he was a clever guy and he manipulated situations to his benefit.
Okay, so here's a question for you then. Do you think that any one man or woman should have that much power?
No.
Or do you think it should be a council of elders or a council of best politicians?
I don't know, because there's so many laws and governing situations. Some of them just really run against human nature.
Like what?
I think. Well, I mean, we are social animals. I understand, we're social animals, but only social to certain amounts. I mean, we're not. I don't want to go and stand with 1 billion other people. I barely like being in a room with 3 other people. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think that having such broad laws is beneficial. Do you know what I mean? To govern so many different personalities and all this, that, and the other. Do you know what I mean? Some people want to go and murder. You're not going to stop them with law, are you? Do you know what I mean? They're going to go and do it. It's difficult to. It's difficult for. And at the same time, you have to look at it that a lot of laws, or maybe not so much now, but a lot of law has always been beneficial to the upper echelons, the upper classes, to protect them.
Yeah, okay. But do you not think that it kind of walks hand in hand? There's law and there's punishment for breaking that law. Do you not think that the fact that you can get thrown into jail or given the death sentence if you're in such a uneducated and uncivilized place such as Texas, where you get the capital punishment, do you not think that prevents people from arbitrarily killing someone?
I think it prevents regular people from doing it. I think that's what it represents and prevents. But I don't think that it prevents people who have an inherent want to murder or to do any other sort of crime. How do you get rid of that in human nature? How do you rid that of because you look at a brain scan of a psychopath and they literally don't have the capability to stop their wants. They're impulsive. If they want to do something, they'll do it, and to hell with the consequences. They're going to do it. They want to do it. It's part of their nature. I mean, you can say, "Oh, son, you're going to get the death penalty for that," and they're going to say, "I don't give a shit."
Yeah, but that's...
I wanted to murder, and I did.
Yeah, but that's what you're talking about are serial killers.
No, I think there's a lot of people out there who would probably like to inflict pain on people,
but they don't.
Because there's plenty, but they don't.
Because the law stops them.
It stops them. It stops a lot of people for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Okay, but
I just think it's difficult to govern things like that because violence is human nature.
So how would you do it then?
I don't know. I don't. If I knew the solution, I would come up with it and just do it. there's been so many different ways to govern societies. I mean, the ancient Greeks, they used to elect 500 people, and then they would be the lawmakers for a year.
The Boule.
If that's what it's called.
The Athenian Council.
Yeah, there you go. So do you think that's a better system? Or do you think that that's too many cooks spoiling the broth?
I think it depends, because it depends if one person can have the veto, because then you have, especially in the current world, where if we take America, just because it's so polarized, I think in England it's more or less central with everyone. I don't think there's such a huge right and such a huge left. Well, at least political sphere, I think it's quite central. I think in the last 21 years that I've been in the country, it's only really Jeremy Corbyn that's come along, who's been slightly more to the left than center. I think the way that, especially in America, commercial interests roll now, and how they play out, I think it's very difficult for there to be a consensus. And I think if you gave one person the veto, things like universal healthcare, which makes sense, let's face it.
Yeah.
Right? It will get vetoed clearly by the Republicans, because they don't believe in giving people free healthcare.
Sure.
Do you believe in healthcare as a human right?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, if you get cancer, it's not really your fault. So why shouldn't I have access to a healthcare system that you should have access to? Do you know what I mean? It should be I think that should be a given right. But only for certain things. In the last podcast we talked about obesity and stuff like that, and I'm against
fatties.
I'm not against. I am against fatties, but only the really big ones. But I'm against someone who has the capability of being on a regular diet and not weighing as much as an elephant seal. I'm against them then developing diseases and needing gastric bands and heart bypasses. I'm against them needing that, because I don't think that that's fair. So, and I'm also against people getting breast implants and stuff like that on the NHS. On healthcare. Yeah.
So how do you punish, or how do you tax the fatties from getting gastric bypass?
You don't tax them. You don't. You just say you're on private healthcare. You do what the Americans do. You need your own insurance.
But that's discrimination, isn't it?
It's not discrimination. You're making a choice. What's difficult to say, all right, here's the NHS and here's what it covers. If you get cancer, then all right, fine. If you're a smoker and you get lung cancer, or grey area perhaps, I don't know. But if you're someone who does something consistently that then develops into a disease or a syndrome, and it can be proven that your activity has led to your whatever you've got, and it's like a contract. Oh, that nulls your NHS. So where's your insurance? Because we shouldn't have to pay for something that you've chosen to do to yourself, and now it's fucked your body up, even though we all told you it's going to fuck your body up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you didn't have diabetes, but then you ate 15 tubs of Ben & Jerry's a day for 7 years, and all of a sudden you're fucking diabetic and you need a leg off.
Yeah. Maybe if
you weren't born with liver cirrhosis, but drinking 9 bottles of Jack Daniels a day, all of a sudden your liver doesn't want to be in your body anymore.
Yeah, I think, to be fair,
that's done.
Yeah,
that's done.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if NHS was prescriptive of certain diseases and certain ailments that have to be treated by the NHS, I think they would spend much less time on arbitrary not arbitrary, but serious diseases that are self-inflicted, as you say. I think there are some people that are born with diabetes, like
Of course, people are born with all sorts of things.
like
Yeah, go on.
Ross's our mutual friend's wife. Now, Jesus, that's weird to say. His wife was born with diabetes, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I think genetic diabetes. You can't do anything with that.
You can't. It's the same as cancer. Do you know what I mean? Some people just have that generic variability and they develop cancer. You get these people, you hear people say, oh, they never smoked in their life, they never touched a drop of drink, and they never ate saturated fats, but they got cancer in 9 areas in their body. All right, fine. Treat them. Give them the best possible. But
what if it's an occasional smoker? What constitutes a heavy smoker?
This is where I'm saying, it's a grey area, and you need to do biopsies. Because obviously smoking is a mutagen. So for those who don't know, a mutagen is something that you do or something that happens to your body that then alters your genetic makeup, essentially.
Okay, well, I'm never smoking again. And so maybe there's a halfway house. Maybe they have to contribute through insurance to half of the healthcare.
That's fine. Maybe, I mean, I'm not drawing up a bill or anything.
I think we've solved the NHS crisis. If they spend less time hoarding fatties in their beds, would be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, did you hear that?
Next,
it's not Jeremy Hunt anymore, but it's some other prick. I think he was former Minister for Entertainment or something like that. Something very medical. So
the NHS is going to get less funding for surgery, but
Love Island will get loads of money, so that's great.
So what's next?
So talking of you brought up Athenian way of life.
Yes.
Ancient Athens we're talking about.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, not now when they have the most Porsche Cayennes per capita than anywhere else in the world.
Really?
Yeah, and we'll hear all about that from my mate who's going to come and do a podcast with us. But okay, so my original point, they didn't allow women and slaves and uneducated men.
The ancients, by the way. He's not going to say women and slaves can't have a Porsche Cayenne.
I probably can't, to be fair.
Especially the women.
Ancient Athenians didn't allow anyone but educated men, Athenian men, to vote.
Right.
Let's extrapolate that to today's terms. Obviously, women can vote. Obviously, slaves are non-existent.
I thought you were going to say they had the vote.
Well, actually, I say non-existent. They do exist. Where is it? Is it in Yemen? No, not in Yemen. Tunisia? No. Where was Gaddafi from? General Gaddafi, yeah. Begins with Libya.
Libya.
I think in Libya you can watch. I think there's YouTube videos of people being sold off as slaves, which is obviously crazy shit. Again, good move by the US and the Allied forces to go into Libya and liberate them.
Of course,
in quotes. But anyway, so they didn't allow anyone but educated men to vote. If we extrapolate it today, obviously women can vote. But they have to be educated. Would you be for or against education during the voting as a principle and as a qualifier for voting?
I think I'd mostly be for it. I think perhaps uneducated people could misconstrue what was being discussed in certain terms. So I mean, I think I'm not saying all of them have got to have, the good lads club, blazer from Cambridge, but they've got to have some sort of basic education, like a minimum requirement, like 160 UCAS points.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it all comes down to the fact that here's a question: if only educated people could vote for or against Brexit, what do you think would have been the result?
That is, my answer is going to be full of conjecture, but probably Remain.
I think so, because if you look at the data from Cambridge and Oxford and London and Edinburgh, places with high number of educated people, they voted to remain.
Yeah.
Those areas voted to remain. Now, how do you make that a qualification? Do you need a BSc in dance to vote?
I don't know. I mean, well, let's go back to your original question. I'd like to know, do you think that there should be, do you think that people should have a minimum standard or minimum level of education to have a vote?
Well, a friend of mine, the Greek friend, actually gave a very good answer to this. He said, instead of allowing you allow everyone to vote, but what you do is you ask them a question such as, what is the political capital of the European Union?
Right.
And if they answer correctly, or you ask them, where is the European Parliament situated?
Mm-hmm.
And if they answer it correctly, so everyone casts a vote, but then they have to answer a question beforehand.
Sure.
And if they answer the question wrongly, then their vote is disqualified. So everyone gets to vote, but you need to know basic knowledge about what you're voting.
Oh, I mean, I think that's a little bit discriminatory. Someone could be really highly educated, but, be on an off day and write Bruges instead of Brussels.
Okay. How many people do you think? How many people do you think confuse Bruges with Brussels?
Not many, but they've got a few similar letters, haven't they?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that was a terrible example, but I'm just saying, you can't qualify someone having having a deciding vote like that, because just knowing where The Hague is not representative of knowing how drastic or how good Brexit could be.
The Hague is obviously William Hague, who was born in Yorkshire. not the international courts.
We affectionately call him The Hague.
It's like The Rock, yeah. Okay, fair enough. So you don't.
We got a crisis. What should we do? Get The Hague.
So you don't think that's a good idea?
I think you're onto the right lines, but I think I don't think that the vote should particularly be disqualified. I think there should still be a statistic for how many people actually know where the European capital is.
I disagree with you, but that's fine.
But why? Why do you disagree?
Well, I think if you're stupid enough to think Bruges is the capital of European Parliament,
but it might not necessarily be Bruges, might it? That was just an example, because, at least they got the country right.
Yeah, so they're half a vote?
Yeah, so what if they put, Bulgaria instead of Belgium and go for Sofia?
They're idiots.
Yeah, exactly. They are idiots.
Then
they get no vote.
Then they get no vote.
If someone's put in Bratislava, they're getting no vote, definitely.
Exactly. But look, do I agree with that? Yes, I do. Okay. Ultimately, I think that because education is free in this country, and the level of education, let's face it, if you actually do well at school, in a state school, you can do very well. We know plenty of people who went to state school who are very, very successful in their own fields.
Yes.
So I think the fact that you don't take advantage of that free education, means you're an idiot yourself.
Some people, we discussed this in a previous podcast, though, didn't we? And some people just aren't academic. Doesn't mean that they're idiots.
Okay, like who?
Well, a lot of people. I don't know the names of people, but a lot of people, all right, okay, I have a friend who had the opportunity to do, A-levels and go to university. He's a clever guy, but he chose not to. So he doesn't have formal name on a bit of paper education.
No, but I agree. There are some people but there are also some people who never went to university or school, but know that Brussels is where the European Parliament's based.
Yeah, I mean, education is
I,
freely available everywhere.
yeah,
All you got to do is pick up a book.
exactly. And the fact that you carry the world's knowledge in your pocket every day, but choose to play fucking Candy Crush.
So how about do you think that media outlets either sensationalize or filter feed us with what should be news and what actually is news?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
Do
especially
you
the
think that's
commercial
do you
ones.
think do you think that's right?
Well, I think it's for every person themselves to fact check what they've heard.
But what if the individual thought that they're hearing it from a respectable news source like BBC or ITV or something like that? They see that as they don't need to fact check because surely these people have done it for them.
Okay, well, let me give you an example. One of the most respected people in the world and the most trusted people in the world is the Pope.
Yeah.
Now, the Pope says that Adam and Eve were the first people on Earth,
Right.
and that God just put them there. And Eve is, in fact, is made out of Adam's rib.
Sure. That's
So,
that's just the way we breed.
but but just because they are respected doesn't mean that they are right. I think
Yeah.
that's where people go wrong in a lot of places.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think people that believe 100% everything that they're told on the BBC, Channel 4, ITV News is wrong. I mean, of course they're wrong. If you look at Michael Fish, who famously said that there'll be no thunderstorms in England, and then there was a massive, I think one of the biggest hurricanes in the UK. So, I think trusting everyone blindly just because they're considered respected is an idiotic thing. I think what you need to do is do your own background research. I think you need to do your own reading, because let's face it, they're only telling each other, they're only really telling you, sorry, their perception of the facts,
Yeah.
aren't they? So it's kind of, I don't know. It's a bit arbitrary. I think I I think too often, especially now, people look at something on Facebook and they think that this is the absolute truth. There was actually famously, there's that photo of Trump when he was fairly young, I think in the 80s or 90s. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a quote saying that if I was to run as a president, I'd run for the Republican Party because they're the stupidest people in the world, or something like that.
Right.
Or something like their base is the easiest to manipulate. Now, a lot of people have seen that photo, and a lot of people believe that it's true, but actually it isn't. It's completely fake.
Okay.
So again, just because you see something, and it doesn't matter who the source is, you still need to check it.
Yeah. Some people just don't have that intuition, do they? They don't have that. Some people just aren't interested.
Yeah,
Some
that's
people
fine.
just don't care.
That's fine. But if you're not interested, don't vote.
Well, there is that.
If you're not that interested, stay out of it.
So I think you should. I think if something is important, then you should always vote. I think it's a slap in the face to the people who died for us
No,
to not vote.
I agree, but I think the voting has to come with self-education.
Oh yeah,
I think
it can't
before.
just be blind luck. You can't just before you go into the voting booth, you can't just flip a coin.
Well, I know a lot of educated people who are politically conservative just because their parents are.
Right.
They might not agree with all the policies. They might not agree with the philosophy of the political party that they belong to.
Yeah.
But they vote for it because their mom and dad voted for them.
Yeah.
I think that's idiotic, in as much as
that is, yeah,
someone who is living off benefits and thinks that the Polish people are stealing all of our jobs when
Yeah.
they don't work themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's stupid. That is stupid. I used to work with a Polish guy back in my young days when I used to work in a bar.
When you were 42.
When I was 42, yeah. And this guy, he was a pot washer, a KP, so a kitchen porter over here. But back home in Poland, he was a paramedic. and he got paid more to wash dishes in a pub in Paynton than to save lives in his own country.
See, I don't buy this thing that these immigrants are stealing all the jobs
Of
and
course
they're
they're not.
just sending the money back, and because you still have to live in this fucking country,
Of
you
course,
still
you
have to
can't.
spend
Yeah,
money here.
you can't
So,
earn £1,000 and send 800 quid back.
well, no, but that's the thing. I think they can, but they work hard to earn 1.5 grand,
Yeah,
send 800 quid back, spend 400 quid on rent,
yeah,
and then spend another 300 quid on life, on
yeah,
food and going out and whatever.
yeah,
So I think the fact that they can do it means that you can do it, given that your fucking house is provided to you by the government.
yeah.
You
I
know,
think I think the benefits system in this country just gets it's so abused. I mean, if you get one of your tax bills through and it tells you what percentage of your wages is going on benefits. I mean, I've seen people. I've almost called the benefits team to say this fucking guy's on benefits and he doesn't need to be. You see him all the time walking around with a crutch that they don't need because they look like they're sprightly enough to run a marathon.
no, but that's I think. Look, I think that's fine if you're going to pretend that you're fucking that you're disabled, given the fact that there are some people that are actually disabled and that need the money. Fine, if you're going to be a dick about it, you can be a dick about it. But what the government should prevent them from doing is allowing them enough money to install fucking Sky Dish on their house.
Yeah, it should be the bare minimum. Someone should go out on a shoestring budget and see what is the bare minimum they could survive on.
What I don't get, and bearing in mind, I'm a child of immigration, right? I'm first generation to be here. My parents emigrated from Kazakhstan to the UK when I was 10, so about 21, 22 years ago. I don't see how, and maybe this is a cultural thing, I don't see how people that are born here and who claim their fucking flag as their own can't educate themselves and get a job. I think if I was in a country where a Polish guy could wash dishes and send money back home and still survive living here, I would feel a bit fucking bad that I'm not doing more for myself, let alone for my country, for myself as a
Yeah,
person,
yeah.
than going down to the council and getting money off of them.
Mm.
I do you think it's a cultural thing? Do you think that the British mentality is fuck it, I'll just, or do you think it's just it's more than that?
I think it's a bit more than that because I'm English. I was born and raised here,
You're German.
and wow, I mean a little bit German, but I think I've always had a good work ethic, and my parents never hammered it into me. Do you know what I mean? They never made me pay rent
No.
or give them any of my wages, but they still told me, don't ever pull a sickie. If you're going to quit a job, give your notice, and when you go to work, earn your money, earn your keep. And that's always been installed in me. So I'm not sure whether 'cause I don't really know that many slackers. I've worked with slackers, and you think, Christ, you don't even know you're born. Do you know what I mean? That I think it's. I just think that this country just lets people be lazy. People know that they can drop out of school and they can go on the dole, they can go on benefits, and they'll be all right. They can still get their 40 Lambert and Butler a day and go and drink White Lightning on a bench. Do you know what I mean? They can be 45 and rock out and wear fucking things that 15-year-olds are wearing and think they're cool, all the while that cool. They can do that too. Do you know what I mean? I just think the country is it just lets people parachute rather than drop.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you're able-bodied, there are enough jobs in the UK, provided that you actually want to do them and that you don't think you're beyond them. I think this is the main issue, is that a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, but they're going to steal my job and cost the coffee." Mate, you didn't even apply. So
Yeah,
how the fuck are they stealing your job?
yeah,
I would sort of understand it right? In the situation where someone comes in and says, "Yeah, fine, I will work there," and then a Spanish kid comes in and says, "Yeah, I'll work there, but I'll work for half the wage."
Mm.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
you can understand that. If someone comes in and undercuts you, you're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? This is what we agreed. Why are you getting rid of me? I'm doing just as good a job.
But that's in a way why there's a minimum wage, right? There's a
Yeah,
legal wage to which you cannot pay below.
Yeah.
Below which you cannot pay someone to do a job, a
Yeah.
minimum
Yeah.
a job, right? So you kind of, first of all, you can't do that, and obviously employers that do get people in on a less than minimum wage are then breaking the law. I mean, there are 0 hour contracts, but I think that's not quite the same. Although
No.
I'm not too sure. So if anyone out there who understands this, if they can let us know, maybe that can be resolved. But
0 hour contracts, they mostly benefit the employer rather than the employee. It's a get out clause, isn't it?
as in they don't have to allow them to work.
Yeah.
If they don't need to.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So it's not, but they're not paying them less. They still have to pay them the minimum wage.
No, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So I kind of think that argument is wrong, and obviously completely illegitimate as far as I'm concerned. But then, there are a lot of people who will say, no, we need this, we need all of this, we need all this social help, because who's gonna care for all the poor people? Well, sometimes you're poor because you fucking choose to be.
Yeah.
I work my fucking ass off going to work every day. You work your ass off going to work every day, and that's why we're not below the poverty line.
Yeah.
We're not anywhere near the poverty line.
Yeah.
But that's because we work hard at it. Some people choose not to, and they still get bailed out by the government. And I can see why people are pissed off at paying 40% tax, which is what I'm on, because what the fuck am I paying for? Okay, I don't mind paying for the streets and the NHS because I see value in the NHS and I do believe it's an amazing institution. But I don't want to pay 40% for someone who doesn't want to work.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay, but can. It's not just not wanting to, doesn't want to, but can work. Physically able, mentally able, completely able to work.
Just too lazy. Can't be asked. They know that they can get away with it, and that's what I mean. This country, they don't ever let you drop. You just parachute. There's no, all right then, see you later. Enjoy the street.
Yeah. What do you think of the government's pledge to try and end homelessness?
It's ambitious. I don't understand how homelessness has become that big. Is it a big issue where you live? It's not massive where I live.
No, it is.
I mean,
it is.
It's bad. I do feel bad for seeing people out on the streets and stuff. But and I know that a lot of people who are out on the streets, they have sort of a lot of mental health issues and stuff like that. And I think they're the people that the government, they're the ones that have slipped through the net, and they've never got a parachute, so they just hit rock bottom. They're the ones that we need to be looking after, not fucking giving some cunt 500 quid a week, letting them get Sky and brand new flat screen TV and fucking tablets and everything. You know what I mean? Why are we enabling? Here's what I don't understand, and this was your point, that we work our asses off. I will get back to the homeless. This is all going to link in, but we work our asses off, and that enables us to pay for the nice things that we have. A laptop and a phone and blah blah blah. But then someone who does fuck all has the same things as I do that I had to fucking pay for. And then there's people who don't know how to manipulate the system, and they just fucking straight onto the pavement. And the government just lets that happen. I don't understand what sort of a society lets its inhabitants hit that level. It lets itself get worked over and manipulated, but it can't help the most needy.
Yeah, I kind of think that if you stop paying people who don't deserve benefits, you could actually end homelessness easily.
I mean, if you, like I said earlier, if you look at your bit of paper that says where your taxes go, it's something like 18% of your wages goes towards benefits. It could be even more, but it's just ridiculous. I mean, you got people like the fire service and the NHS. You got people who are getting underpaid and undervalued for their jobs. Fire service, you tip your hat to them because these people go into fucking burning buildings to save people, and yet they're having to strike because they're not earning enough money. Yet some fucking cunt can sit at home and drink Tennants all day long and watch Jeremy Kyle thinking, oh, I might bloody apply to get onto that next week. I could do with 500 quid. He's all right.
Yeah,
He's sitting there earning the same fucking money.
yeah. I think sometimes capitalism is not great because it overlooks people who,
Work their bollocks off.
well, people
There's no
who
reward
sometimes,
system, is there?
well, it overlooks sometimes people who don't necessarily do the most financially lucrative jobs,
Mm-hmm.
but socially probably one of the most important. You named firemen. There's nurses.
Yeah.
Doctors get paid a lot, so that's fine. There's teachers. I think they get chronically underpaid for what they have to put up with, especially now, given that there's complete dicks at school who don't give a
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, overall, the issue is that there's a lot of people who take advantage of the good nature of people, of the government. I think the government has every right and has every need to help most vulnerable in our society. But should they help everyone who says they're vulnerable? No, I think these things should be tested, and I think it's obviously they're inundated with calls, and sometimes people slip through the net. I mean, there were huge, famous cases of people who were disabled, for example, and they had their electricity or they had a utility bill allowance cut. But obviously they're disabled, so they can't even get out the house, and
Yeah.
they're not physically able. I
Yeah.
don't mean like it's something minor. They literally can't work. They can't do anything. So they but because of a mistake or a clerical error or administration error, they were overlooked and something bad happened in terms of their benefits and they were cut and there was a huge scandal. I think it's good that these things are brought to light because it shows the farcical nature of people applying arbitrarily
Yeah.
just to take a punt on someone giving them free 500 quid a month. I think it's absolutely retarded, if you ask me. But that's just how it is.
Shouldn't be though, should it?
Well,
I mean,
no, but
where do you, if you were to try and predict, where would you see the future of the NHS? Do you see it being a privatised firm?
I think it will get to a point where the government would not be able to give them any more money. I think it will because with each year, the NHS budget grows. At the moment, I think for the planned spending for the Department of Health in England is approximately £124 billion for 2017-2018.
Right.
So, it's a lot of money, and you can only get to a certain point where it becomes unsustainable because our population's growing. People are living longer, so they need to be cared for longer.
Yeah.
People are, there's loads of superbugs. People are taking too many antibiotics and they get immune to them. So the disease mutates and it becomes, it doesn't become susceptible to antibiotics that we have now.
Yeah.
So there's more investment into drugs, into more antibiotics. So that budget is just going to grow and grow and grow.
Of course.
At some point, it has to become sustainable, and at some point, it has to be privatized, unfortunately, or the government has to take a long, hard look and say, look, we'll allow for these certain diseases, like you suggested.
Yeah.
We'll allow for these certain operations and treatments, but we can't allow for people just because you eat a shitload a day. It doesn't mean that you're You've got the right to the NHS, and it's going to be a very controversial decision when and if that happens.
I think you could keep the same abbreviation of NHS, but just have it as National Health Standard. And if you fall under that standard, you get the fucking surgery, and if you don't, tough shit, cough up, not a lung, some money.
I also think that sometimes if you, so for example, in my work, I get private healthcare,
right,
electively. So you can either choose. It's a salary sacrifice. What that means is you pay a tax-free amount into your private healthcare insurance, and then you can call upon it whenever you want to. The issue is that it excludes certain diseases. You still have to pay, and the way that insurance works is it's not that it's free automatically. You have to go, you have to pay, and then you get reimbursed by the insurance company. Mm-hmm. That takes a long time. I think what technology and what technology like blockchain can do is it can automate that process.
Yeah,
and I think that's the next step in anything really, contractually, in terms of insurance, in terms of commercial transactions.
Yeah.
I think blockchain will resolve that, but there needs to be an adaptation of it. There needs to be a willingness from the government to go within the next step. And I think actually a lot of the time, what the government could do is get people to who don't work, is get them to input data, digitize government records, and they can pay them for that, and give them slightly less. Okay, fine. You say that you're too ill to work, or that you've got too many kids to look after. Fine, those kids have to sleep at some point. They have to go to school at some point. So we need to digitize all this data, which is not sensitive.
Yeah.
And we're going to pay you £1 for every data entry that you do. So incentivization.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you do this, we'll give you a bonus of £200. So if you reach £1,000, we give you a bonus of £200, and they get the benefit of getting their records digitized, and and they save on having to give them benefit money.
Yeah.
I don't know, mate. I think if we wanted to run the country and resolve all issues, we could. But
I think there's too many issues. The thing that really infuriates me is when people try to solve problems, but they say, "Oh no, you're not allowed to do that." Do you know what I mean? Like, if we wanted to revoke our vote and say, actually, we don't want Brexit. Oh no, you're not allowed to do that. Why not? It's beneficial to everyone. You don't want us to leave the EU. We no longer want to leave. Should we just put all that to one side and just remain? Oh no, but you're not allowed. Why not? I mean, people put whatever law is stopping you from doing something in place. If it's beneficial to break that law or to go against that stipulation, why not do it?
Yeah. I don't know. I think the more that we come into the digital world, and the more that you don't need to actually be in an office or have too many skills to work, I think the more opportunity there is to actually reduce the benefits expenditure and get these people working.
I don't want to. It's clear.
Yeah, but I think if you make them, I think if you say, look, okay, fine, you say you can't work, fine, then you should work for the government, and we'll pay you because we need this done. Otherwise, we're going to spend 100 million quid sending it to some kids in India to digitize, or we could spend it within the country and actually uplift our economy.
Yeah, I just, as good as that sounds, I just don't think that it would work, because the people who are on that sort of level, the dregs of the society, as I would label them. The pond scum, the ones who just don't want to do anything to benefit anyone, either themselves or their country. I just don't think there's a way to incentivize them. And if you say, "Oh yes, but we could save 200 million and put money into our own economy," or we'll pay that money and pay some Indian kids, they'll be like, "Oh well, there's a get out clause. Pay the Indians. Fuck it."
Yeah, but I think there's a lot to say for societal pressure as well. I think if they rolled out this program and people didn't enroll onto it and we were still spending the same amount, I think people would get fucking pissed off about it. The fact that you're given a job on a plate, which will pay you good money, but you don't want to, I think people will start.
Yeah, but I mean, where do you put the standard of their work? Because they're going to be lazy as fuck and they're not going to want to do it.
No, but you have to, otherwise you don't get your benefits.
Yeah,
easy.
I mean, they'll do the job, but it'll be piss poor.
Not necessarily. I mean, how you make it idiot proof. It's like counting the
There's
number
some
of cars.
fucking good idiots in this country.
Yeah, of course. No, I know it's not bulletproof. My suggestion is not bulletproof, but I think it's a start to which people can develop ideas from.
Oh yeah.
Did you hear about? By the way, did you hear about this bridge collapse in Italy?
I did.
Well,
it was awful,
mate. Like 200 people died or something. Is it 200 people?
Something like that.
In Genoa.
Yeah, Genoa.
Yeah, I mean it's fucking huge. A number of people died. It's kind of Do you think that it's do you think that it's the building standards? Do you think that it's bribery that potentially caused this, or what is it? What could it be?
I mean, there's a whole bunch of things it could be. Poor materials, bad workmanship. I haven't read the report. I don't know what materials they used, but I think in general, it's that age-old adage. They just don't build things like they used to.
Well, I think this is an old. This was built in 1967.
Okay, so still quite modern.
Wow. But okay, and here's something that I didn't know. So it killed 39 people, not 200. More than 2 million homes across the country are unstable, apparently. This is about the Italian infrastructure.
Yeah.
More than 156 school ceilings have fallen in over the last 5 years. Jesus.
Wow.
The Morandi Bridge in Genoa, where this happened, is the 12th bridge to have collapsed in Italy since 2004.
Right.
Oh, doggy.
That is fucking mental.
5 of those were in the last 5 years. I mean, that's ridiculous. This is an article in The Guardian, right? So they're saying that many of the problems can be traced back to the construction boom of the 60s, when bridges, roads, buildings, and schools were being built. So there was huge amounts of investment into it.
Right.
But they often used weak or cheap materials to increase profits. And they normally ended up in mafia hands.
Shock.
Yeah, I mean, again, well, I think the company that built it, designed it, well, maybe not designed it, but definitely the company that built it, should all be sent to jail. If you're going to build, if you're going to build a bridge with below par materials, and you know that you're building a bridge with subpar materials, you should go to jail. That's what would happen here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to find whether if it was a mafia-controlled company, they're going to buy the cheapest things, aren't they? Because they want the money. So they want the contract, but they want to do it as cheap as possible to make the most profit. You can't really blame the workers for that if that's the case.
I don't mean the workers. I mean the CEOs of that company.
Yeah. The contractors, yeah.
No, not the workers. The workers are just doing their job.
I agree.
Although, you know, they might have some blood on their hands if they knew that they were using subpar materials.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's for me, and working in the construction industry, I think you'll also understand that there are so many standards in the UK where you just can't do that, right? There's building control who make sure that everything complies with building regulations, which are a legal requirement. There's CDM regulations, which look after health and safety not only of the current workforce but also of the building thereafter. You know, there's so many checks and balances to make sure that the building that you're living in is suitable. Okay, we did have the Grenfell Tower incident, and subsequently we had a few others, which, you know, some slipped through the net, but on the majority, we haven't had 12 bridges collapse in the last 14 years. Nearly one bridge a year. That's crazy.
It's a frightening statistic.
That's mental. Do you see Jeremy Corbyn got into trouble with the Jewish folk?
Elaborate.
Well, basically, so he went to, I think he went to Palestine.
Right.
Oh no! So in 2014, he paid homage to the Palestinian group, or apparently he paid homage to a Palestinian group that was responsible for the 1972 Munich massacres of Israeli athletes on a plane. Basically, during the Olympics in Germany, some Palestinian terrorists seized a plane and executed Israeli athletes, and then the Mossad went after them, and I don't think they left anyone alive.
Right.
But he's actually been a somewhat controversial figure, Corbyn, I mean, in the last sort of since the beginning, because he's let me just see. So he took part in a student demonstration in Sao Paulo against Brazil's military dictatorship. He was in the country in 1970 when Salvador Allende became president. He was a communist. And then Allende was overthrown in a brutal military coup led by General Augusto Pinochet. Corbyn praised Allende and derided Pinochet for turning Chile into a laboratory for free market fundamentalism. So clearly Pinochet wanted a slightly more capitalist society. He was on the executive of the anti-apartheid movement.
Right.
He was arrested in 1984 protesting outside South Africa's house in London. And to be fair, that's not a bad thing. Unless he was pro-apartheid. I'm not really sure what he wanted. He was part of the Stop the War coalition, which was founded less than 2 weeks after 9/11 attacks. And they organized marches on the eve of the Iraq War in 2003, one of the biggest in British history. There were 1,000 people at the event, apparently. He's been quite vocal. He supports the Palestinians. To be fair, so do I. I don't think it's the Israelis' fault for being given that bit of land. I think, if anything, it's the Brits that did it, which they did after World War II, because they owned Palestine as part of their empire, and as a last hurrah, they gave Palestine to the Israelis. Do you follow that at all? The Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
I have to say, I am quite ignorant on the whole thing. I've watched a few documentaries here and there, but on the whole, I'm quite ashamedly, I'm quite ignorant to it. I don't fully understand or appreciate the situation.
Okay, well,
can you give me it in a little bite-sized chunk?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I'll just wait for you to Google it.
Well, yeah, sort of. Okay, so the reason why I say that the Brits did it is there was a declaration of establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. And what was then known as British Palestine was proposed as the place where the Israelis could go and set up a state.
Right.
So it's actually quite an interesting resolution, right? So a year before that, the United Nations adopted a resolution recommending the adoption and implementation of a plan to divide Palestine into an Arab state and a Jewish state, and then the city of Jerusalem. So, obviously, when the news broke, the Palestinians weren't very happy because suddenly their land was taken away from them, which is understandable. And there was a lot of violence, and Arab and Jewish forces were executing attacks. I think that lasted for about 5 months. The Arab League supported, which is made up of the Arab countries in the area, supported the obviously the Arabs. They formed an Arab Liberation Army, and such was the Holy War, essentially.
Right.
And then in 1948, it was the Arab forces were nearing depletion. They were near collapse. The Israeli forces gained more and more territory, and they created a huge refugee problem of Palestinian Arabs. Obviously, it's a very touchy subject because if you talk to any Arab, there's quite big hatred for the Israelis and for the Brits because of what they did. Because obviously they were the ones that essentially, well, the United Nations were the ones that said, yeah, this little strip here is going to be Israel, this little strip here is going to be Palestine, and then Jerusalem is going to belong to no one.
Right.
And obviously, I think it was last year, or maybe even this year, the US moved their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and pronounced it as, and therefore signaling that Jerusalem was recognized by the US as a Jewish Israeli state.
Right.
Obviously, I have to be really careful because Jerusalem, Jewish isn't necessarily Israeli, same as Israeli isn't necessarily Jewish. It just so happens that there's a lot of Jews living in Israel. There's also a lot of Arabs living in Israel, so that's not, it's not quite the same.
It's essentially an absolute melting pot, and and I would comment on it, but I really don't feel like I know enough to even have a say on that subject.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Just uneducated, mate. Read up on it. It's quite important.
Well,
So,
okay, I don't live there.
what TV shows have you been watching lately? Let's talk about something a bit lighter.
I just Rick and Morty, obviously.
Okay, so apart from cartoons for kids, what have you been watching?
Hey, you got to be 15 to watch this one, mate.
Yeah, okay. Apart from cartoons for teenage kids, what have you been watching?
It's well written. Just documentaries. That's all I watch. I get up in the morning. I have an hour to burn, so I watch a documentary.
Such as what's the latest one?
The latest one that I watched was a Horizon documentary on how aviation travel has gotten safer through the crashes that have happened over time.
Yeah.
So, there's advancements in the fuel. So they analysed when planes were crashing, the fuel would initially burn behind the plane, and then it would mist and then ignite in front of the plane when it's landed. So scientists developed a polymer chain. So when it encounters movement, when it moves a lot, it sticks and it goes really viscous. So it can't mist. It is incapable of misting. It just sticks like jelly. But I mean, these things. It's interesting to see the development of technology through disaster.
Yeah,
I thought it was interesting.
One of my all-time favorites is hypernormalization, which I mentioned earlier in our previous podcasts, but also Inside Job. Have you seen Inside Job?
No.
So Inside Job is a documentary about the 2009 crisis.
Right.
The financial crisis in 2009 of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to financial institutions, which caused a huge collapse through selling off. The mortgage lenders were giving mortgages to people that they knew couldn't pay back ever.
Yeah.
And banks were packaging these mortgages as a complicated financial instrument and selling them to pension funds because they were yielding fairly high returns. And they obviously had a huge issue with that, as we know, and as we know since. But the issue is that these things haven't finished. As in, they haven't come to a conclusion. They still exist. These things still are in the ether. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. I highly recommend it, mate. If you want to know, if you want to get a bit angry and throw a chair in your television, that is definitely the one to watch, because some of the stuff that they do and they still continue to do, and the people that caused it all and or had the knowledge of it still out there, being very influential on the financial movements in the world today. It's fucked up. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh yeah.
I think we should wrap up. We've been talking for about an hour and a half over nothing. Nothing and everything. That's why I like it, mate. That's why I like it. It's a conversation. And anyone who wants to come along, they should. I think I might ask Tom Gibson.
Okay. Yeah.
To come and join us, because I think he's got some fucking controversial views, I tell you.
Has he?
Yeah, mate. Oh, it's quite funny.
It's been a while since I've spoken to Gibbo.
It's good. It's good. He's doing well. He's doing really well. He's got a lovely girlfriend. He's just been through South America, which was really good. He's got he's a high flyer in a Big Four company.
Right.
I think he'll but he fucking loves to talk about controversial views on society. So, but we'll see.
Let's do it. Let's get them on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
okay. Well, this is to date our longest ever podcast.
No, it's not.
Wow, it nearly is.
It really isn't. We did 1 hour 34 minutes before.
Oh, sorry.
So
6 minutes off.
it was 5. You can't count, but that's fine.
I've had too much rum.
Anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy it. Again, you can reach us at any time. Feel free, anytime, day or night. Just write a comment below our fucking YouTube video.
Just do it. What's stopping you? Probably because they don't get this far.
to hear the information. Well, for those of you who are still listening, Tommy, do you want to kick off how and when they can reach us?
Well, sure. I mean, obviously the first one, comment on the fucking video. Pretty easy. Scroll down, little box there. Click. You'll see a flashing thing. Type letters, and they shall follow on the screen. Or you can email us, yarnspinnerspodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Facebook and Twitter, same handle, @yarnspinners1. And we have a new website up and running. So
yeah.
Dimitriy,
yeah.
what is the pen?
I don't know. I don't know.
You are fucking useless. You are.
But if you Google Yarn Spinners Podcast, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be very, very much up there. I'm gonna check it now. Yarn Spinners Podcast, and
Professional.
No, Yarn Spinners Tales Podcast. No, not that one. Okay, we are quite far down, but we're gonna be there.
But with your help, we can grow.
Yeah.
So tell your friends, tell your family, tag a friend. Just fucking listen, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Not, is it?
Yeah.
What else are you doing for an hour and a half?
Exactly. But no, check out our YouTube channel, Yarn Spinners. Please don't. I mean, you can do if you want to, but
Ring us.
We're not the guys that are spinning yarn in a literal sense.
Anyway, on this dud of a bombshell, see you later.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. Peace.